and it's doing very well. And they're all not for profit. They're providing a really great service to the community for, low cost compared to the private sector. They are able to have much higher, they had much, much higher rates of staff to child ratios as well. So like all good stuff. But what they didn't have was that what the managers these crashes found is that like they'd no one to talk to. So if they had an issue, the only people they could talk to was the board, but a lot of their boards were very, very weak. And a lot of the times they were driving their board rather than the other way around. Mm-hmm. So, to have that peer-to-peer mentorship or coaching, and then this whole governance side that was coming in, they're quite afraid of the whole thing. They didn't know where to go. I think we had 3 people who said, oh yeah, I have that governance manual it's on my desk, it's on my to-do list. And I actually ended up having a chance to talk to somebody in the charities regulator off the record. And I said, so according to the CCOs, they've told me that they have to get this done like by the year end, and once they have it done by the year end, they could start implementing it next year. And she's like, no, they're actually supposed to be implementing it this year. So they're all way behind, but they're all like, don't want to know. We're just too busy with everything else, too busy with COVID, because they've no capability in it. It's not their skill set.
Okay, so that's quite interesting to see kind of like how the project kind of like developed. You had a set area, and actually you, through that kind of data collection and analysis, you went, okay, you need to pivot to be able to make this kind of functional and worth your while. So that's good to understand what you had to do, what the project involved. So do you want to tell me a little bit about your role specifically in the project?
So my role specifically, my role specifically was I led on the one-to-one interviews, and I set them up, I organised them. I also set up the original survey initially, but then one of my colleagues then took it over. And then I combined all the information from the one-to-one interviews, and we basically contrasted the findings from the surveys, and actually the two backed each other up. But then the one-to-one interviews actually gave us the richness on why is nobody going for finance? Why are the numbers low there and they're really high in governance? What's going on? So I did that. Then it was probably compiling the report together. Everyone in fairness, everybody did that. And then at certain times it was probably having to step in a little bit, because the leadership was quite weak of the project. We had a guy who was the leader of the project who kept on disappearing. And unfortunately, in fairness, we found out subsequently that he had issues going on, but he didn't turn up for meetings. There needs to have been progression. Cran, he didn't even tell Cran that the date of the presentation changed. So they didn't know the presentation was on a different date. When you do your final presentation to the tutor panel, he didn't get back to Cran on a number of issues, so I ended up having to step in on that. But look, that happens to the MBA, right?
And so you've mentioned that you work for a non-profit and in a non-profit. So what were the tasks and or like kind of skills that you were using in this project, similar to what you do at work?
Well, I mean, in fairness, I don't do a huge amount of research at work. I'm more operational at work. So the skill set, doing up the interviews, talking to people, I suppose I realized that's a skill set that I have that I didn't really realize I had, which is great. I can, particularly with an interview, I can kind of get the best out of people, and I can get the truth, get down to the truth of it, and I suppose, I learned how to use Qualtrics, which is great because, it's a nice little system to use. Then, the other thing I did, I'd forgotten about that. I did the literature review. Mm-hmm. Now I had done, the last time I did a literature review was about 20 years ago. And we had another, we'd had to do a literature review for corporate finance. It was literally one of the first what group projects we had to do. And one of the other guys did the literature review. And I remember looking at it going, oh, right, this is what the literature review is out. Okay. And then thinking, what did, this makes no sense. You know, we're going, what's this all about? I don't get it. We're like, okay, he's done it anyway. I don't know, right? Whatever. But actually, then obviously when I did this one, then I was like, okay, no, actually that was not it. He didn't do a literature review. This is a literature review. So I was able to get guidance from one of the other students, and she kind of went, this is what you need to do. And I was like, aha, that makes so much more sense. And then so I was able to do the literature review, which is great. And yeah, for 700 words, it took about 10 hours because you're just, having to, so yeah, that was good. So now I now can do a literature review, which is great. So I suppose the whole thing really though is working with the team and trying to get things going,
And so from that, you said like you identified like you have a skill set that you didn't really realize that you had before. So what role, if any, would those skills potentially play in your work role now?
So I suppose I would do a lot of investigations and work. So digging down, finding the truth, maybe interviewing, investigations. I do an awful lot of investigations into what is going on. Because our work is in the community, there's a lot of he said, she said, and is trying to ask the right questions so you can actually figure out what's going on. So I suppose I've improved my skill set in that. I suppose we did an awful lot of collab work and teamwork. And it's like, and I find this with every project. It's like there really is groupthink, and it just happens. And it's she or he who speaks strongest or loudest, or has the room kind of gets it, will get, or there's an idea that we put forward. So like with our group, it was like, look, so the first thing was that like a lot of people thought that the charity was crazy, right? Because they all come from a private business side and they don't understand that charity is very entrepreneurial. It's very innovative. It is not procedure based. It's not, it doesn't have loads of money. So you do things differently in the charity. You do things very, very differently. There is a bit of by the seat of your pants going on. You can't have everything perfect and then you launch a product. It's never like that. You just do it. You grab in a charity, you see an opportunity. There may be some grant floating around and you grab that grant and you grab it while you can. Mm-hmm. And then you backfill, right? And then you put everything in place. You put the resources in place or finish off your research or whatever it is, because you can't go to the bank and ask for a loan. It doesn't work. That's not how a charity works. We're not allowed. So it's a completely different way of working. So where a lot of my colleagues were like, the charities are just crazy. They don't know what they're doing. How have they been kept on going for the last 20 years? Why are they still in business? I was like, no, that's just the way charities work. Like that's, you have to be entrepreneurial with it, otherwise you won't progress. And then there's an understanding with the government or whichever department you're liaising with that, it's not going to be perfect from the beginning. You will have a year or 2 years to get this properly up and running and, generating whatever it's supposed to be generated. Mm-hmm. So rather than, I suppose, with my other colleagues, like, it's like in fairness, like one of my colleagues, his business was turned over €1 billion in profit last year. One of my other colleagues, she sells airplanes for a living. So it's like a 90 million airplane. So like for them, it's money, no object. Right, it's a completely different world, and everything's very corporate, and everything is very by the book, and and they've lots of resources, and they just thought the whole charity area was just nuts. They just didn't get it. Well, they did get it, I think, in the end, but they found it difficult, found it challenging when they looked at the business side of it.
Yeah. So it's kind of like putting your kind of experience, I guess, or knowledge into practice to say, no, this is how it works, and kind of explaining a different business.
Trying to explain it to them was hard because they just went, there's no way we would touch this as a barge pole if this is our business. We absolutely wouldn't do this. I was like, yeah, but it's a charity, so it will happen and it will work.
Yeah.
So it was a different experience, I suppose, for them. And then I suppose the other, then it was like, yeah, the group think was interesting because I think everybody was really, really tired.